going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and this evening I am joined by my guys Matt Llewellyn and Mike Andrews of Nothing But Niners. We got a great show planned for you tonight, talking about the draft, talking about some recent 49ers news. You know how it is here. We're going to get into it a little bit. Before we do, if you're tuning in on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. We're not ignoring you if you're commenting on Twitter. We just can't see it. With that all out, Matt, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Zach. It's been a long time. We've, had a pretty slow off season, but it's nice to be back. Draft is coming up in a couple weeks. So just getting back on the horse, 49ers Twitter, it is what it is. They need some stuff to talk about. We need some stuff to talk about. So let's jump right into it.
That's right. Exactly. Mike, thanks for joining us tonight. It's always a great show when we have you. How you doing?
All is well, man. Ready to talk some 49ers draft prospects and things like that. And you guys have to forgive me for anything I may say that's not appropriate tonight. Just going to get that out there now and get it out the way.
No forgiveness necessary. We're going to get into it. And I want to hear your hottest of hot takes, both of you guys. Let's get this a spicy show. Let's make some clips go circulate around 49ers Twitter. Let's get controversial. Now that I've said all of that, before we get into the draft, there is some Brock Purdy news that I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on. He recently talked to Lombardi and I believe Barrows, and there was a quote that kind of sent 49ers Twitter into a storm, for lack of a better word. The quote was, asking about if his recovery, how's it going? And he says that he's not sure whether or not he'll play in 2023 and that he takes it one day at a time. And he added, just to be able to get out of the brace, move around frequently and stuff like that. I know it sounds small, but that's a big win. That's how I look at it, finding the little things like that to be positive about and understand you have what it takes to get back to being yourself on the field. Matt, is there a possibility he doesn't play this entire season?
Nah, I mean, this is off-season stuff, 49ers Twitter stuff, blah, 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 blah. What's he supposed to say? I mean, he has no idea what anything's going to be yet. He's not clear to throw a football. He's not really ready to do anything. And any doctor worth their salt is going to tell him, when they do the surgery, hey, like, this is the plan. If everything goes as it should, you should be thrown in 3 months and whatever. But obviously, with any medical procedure, nothing's 100%. There is a chance, yada, yada, yada. That's how that goes. And I think this is Brock Purdy being aware enough of the situation to not want to give out any information ahead of time, not make any promises that he doesn't know 100% that it's going to be able to be fulfilled. I think he wants to be back. I think the plan is for him to be back. It's, it is what it is. I mean, even in this, the first thing that remains an early step in recovery. Early is the key. I mean, he's barely had surgery, a month and a half, 2 months ago, or whatever it was. They had to wait for a lot of swelling to come down. So, there's no rush. Trey Lance is in the building, right? For better or worse, Sam Darnold is in the building. As we said the last time we were here, we don't need Brock Purdy to rush himself back and potentially injure himself further. Take it conservatively. Do what you have to do to get back on the field. But again, it's him being aware enough not to throw anything out there that's going to be like, oh yeah, he said he was going to be back. Now look at him. He's not back or whatever. He's playing it. He's playing it close to the chest like he should.
Yeah. Mike, how are you interpreting this?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I read this quote way different than everybody else did. I think I did anyway. So if you look at the set of quotation marks in this image, not really sure, honestly. And then they add whether he'll play in 2023 as he takes it one day at a time. He didn't say anything about 2023 in his exact quote. They threw that in between what was going on. So they probably asked him something along the lines of, hey, when do you think you'll be back? And he said, not sure, honestly. They added whether he'll play in 2023 as he takes it one day at a time, which is another part of his quote. I don't think that he said that he wasn't going to be ready at all this season. This is just manipulation of words at its finest to get clicks. And It did. I mean, here we are, you know, in the middle of a very intense and close playoff game, and this is what we're talking about. You know, like this is what it was for. So, job well done to the people who wrote this and crafted it the way that they did. But I don't think there's much of a story here. He'll be ready this season. Guys, look, they said it all along. 3 months recovery, 6 months to be back to throwing 100%. I haven't heard about a single setback. There's no reason to believe Brock Purdy won't be back this season.
You know, that's a pretty good point. I actually didn't even realize that it is in between quotes. It's I thought it was part of the quote. It's not. It's, you know, how's your recovery going? Where are you at? I'm not sure, honestly. And then, you know, they added that in, you know, whether he'll play in 2023. So it is a bit misleading. Great point, Mike. I didn't think that. And I agree with you, Matt, as well. What else is he supposed to say? Well, you know, I think I'll be back exactly on August 1st. Like, he's not going to give us concrete dates. He's going to be these generic answers, taking it one day at a time, see how I feel, go from there. But with that all said, the 49ers are still doing their due diligence with other players and other quarterbacks, that is, as they've had now Dorian Thompson Robinson in for which would be their third, I don't want to call it visit, but contact with him. This is the official visit. I saw Steph Sanchez was tweeting it out. Matt, what do you make of this? Is this just pre-draft due diligence? Is there maybe more of a connection there?
I mean, I think everything's on the board with however many picks the 49ers have. The fact they don't pick till the third round. You know, they have a need to shore up. I mean, Sam Darnold is in the building, but I mean, how long is that going to be? You have other guys rolling through. It's due diligence. I know that I believe this is the second time they've talked to this kid, right? That I think they met with him at the pro day, and then they brought him into the building. He's not exactly a barn burning draft prospect. It's not like he's going to be a second or even a third round pick. He's a late round guy, day 3. I think this is one of those build a relationship in case you go undrafted. This could be a guy they even just bring into the building as an undrafted free agent. If it does go that route, I think that because it's the 49ers and because it's the quarterback position, which is like something the 49ers have, you know, struggled with in terms of keeping them healthy, any name is going to be a big name for everybody to gleam onto and kind of try to read the tea leaves and everything like that. People say, oh, he's a dual threat quarterback. This means that Trey Lance is the guy. Oh, he's this. So that means Brock Purdy's the guy. And it's just one of those things where you just, the team is going to scout people. I mean, that's their job. You don't just stop at the end of round 1, right? Most of us, unless you're a super draftophile or like you're a tape head or whatever, we stop after the top 50, top 100 prospects. We stop knowing who a lot of these guys are, but the 49ers have everybody in the building that they need to kind of figure out, hey, who are we going to take in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7? Who do we want to bring in as priority free agents after the draft, the undrafted guys? They found a couple of stars there. They found a couple of contributors that they've been able to bring in. And really, I mean, Brock Purdy is the perfect example, right? We have some, you know, evidence that they had talked to Brock Purdy prior to them drafting him Mr. Irrelevant, and that's just them doing their due diligence. I'm not saying this kid is going to be Brock Purdy, but this is how you find these diamonds in the rough, by going through, having your scouting team look at the tape, guys that catch your interest in one way or another, bring them in. It is interesting to see. And the general manager for the Tennessee Titans, Rand Carthon, talked about it with Elijah Mitchell, how they wanted to take a linebacker, but one of their area scouts showed them a tape and was like, look at this dude, look at this tape. And that tape got to somebody else and got to somebody else. And finally they were like, no, we're going to take this running back instead because he just pops and we see it. So it's those things that the every man on Twitter doesn't really think about, and makes mountains out of molehills. It could be nothing. It could be something, but we won't know until the time comes.
Really well said. Mike, you have 2 cents on these visits. According to Steph, this would be combine, private workout, and then now this visit at the facility. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I like what you said at the very beginning, assuming this isn't an old picture, right? So if it's an old post from a previous visit, then maybe doesn't. People post things later on. It's kind of the way of social media. But here's what I will say about the young man himself. Right, he was the second highest rated prospect going into college, dual threat college. Let me be the second highest dual threat quarterback going into college. All right, he went to he gets to the school. And one thing that I really like about this young man is the fact that you don't usually see dual threat guys complete over 65%. He's a 70% completion percentage guy, and that was a big thing with Josh Allen, coming out of college. It was, can they turn him into, a higher completion percentage type of player, in his first year in the NFL, he was down to like 58% or something like that. All right. Josh Allen, he didn't have the best of seasons. This guy's coming in here and he's used to completing 70% of his passes already. They talk about, excuse me, how he doesn't have the biggest arm. Most of these dual threat guys usually have cannons attached to them at the shoulder. He doesn't quite have that. So I kind of like this. And Kyle Shanahan is in uncharted territory for himself. We know what happened with RG3. We know what happened with Kirk Cousins, but you're talking about a first round guy. You're talking about a fourth round guy. He's done it now with Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy. Is Kyle Shanahan suddenly feeling himself saying, hey, I can take anybody in this draft now. This team is now stacked to the point where I can probably be successful with just about anybody. Let me start taking some more of these guys. Are we going to turn into one of those teams where every season we're drafting one quarterback, even if we end up cutting them, right? Like, even if they're a guy that they try to put on the practice squad or whatever, are the Niners all of a sudden one of those teams where they say there's a value in drafting a quarterback every single year? The Patriots do it. Sometimes they draft two, like the good teams around the NFL, they tend to do that. Look at Andy Reid's draft record. We've got Patrick Mahomes. They'll still go out there and take a quarterback, right? You think about the Green Bay Packers and how many times have they drafted quarterbacks with Aaron Rodgers on their roster. I talked about the Patriots. You got Jimmy Garoppolo. You got Matt. What was the Matt's name that was over there? Matt Castle.
Yeah.
Right. And there was somebody else that was supposed to also surpass Tom Brady, and these guys go and they don't really do much. But my point is, the good teams always have a backup plan at the quarterback position, and usually they get them through the draft. They want to build them up. Kyle Shanahan is now maybe thinking, hey, I'm that guy now. I can get one of these guys and maybe turn them into a jewel. So I'm so mad. Pop that up. All right. But yeah, I'm going to shut up because I don't want to offend the viewers. So yeah. Yep. Yeah.
All right. I don't see anything wrong with this. I've seen some people say that DTR should be their first overall pick in this draft. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't think he'll probably go in the third round. He could probably get him in the fourth or the fifth. But again, how much of this comes from
wait. People are saying that the first pick that the 49ers make in this draft should be on this guy.
I've seen
those people are stupid.
Yeah.
Those people are stupid.
A good amount of people saying I would not be
those
surprised
people are stupid.
if the 49ers take DTR with their first pick in the third round.
There's no way.
Essentially a fourth.
Okay, but they have a ton of other needs. We're just going to ignore the fact that they don't have a proven right tackle. We're going to ignore the fact that the interior offensive line still needs a ton of work. We're going to ignore the fact that they're thin at safety. We're going to ignore all that stuff, and we're going to draft a kid that at best would be the third string day one.
Matt, I can argue this with you. I can argue this with you for a second.
Sure, let's do it.
You're not going to get a starting right tackle at 99 overall. You're not going to get a starting right safety at 99 overall. You're not likely to get a starting.
Are you sure?
I'm saying likely. If a team is setting their draft board and they're thinking, hey, at 99, this is where we get our starting right tackle in the NFL, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Now, it doesn't mean that a prospect can't turn into a starter, but anyone that this team is drafting, this entire draft class, they're not looking for a starter. They're looking for quality players. Maybe we can find a gem. Maybe we can turn them into something, and then developmental. This entire draft is developmental pieces. Let's see what we can get out of these guys. Maybe we strike gold, but if not, that's okay. We weren't expecting anything. The 49ers are not going into this draft expecting guys to be starters. I I don't care what position. You can name any position you want. Maybe a field goal kicker, right? Like maybe. But outside of that, you can't. I don't think either. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think either one of you can tell me with a straight face, Mike. At 99, we're getting a starter at blank position. I just don't think we can do that.
I still think. Well, it depends on what you want. All you got to do at 99 overall for your right tackle, all you got to do is be better than Colt McKivitz, who was where was Colt McKivitz drafted? Anybody?
That's if. And
He was
I don't know.
listening.
I think he was like a 5th or 6th round guy, but that's if
McKivitz was a 6th,
right? But even still, right? In the Mike McGlinchey interview that he did with ESPN, right? He said that the Niners told him going into the season, we probably can't afford you after the season. If someone's there to take you, we're going to move on. That tells me that there was an answer at the right tackle position this past season. We don't know if it was Colton McKivitz or not, but that tells me that there was someone that they were comfortable starting. So it's not just beat out Colton McKivitz.
Okay, but I feel like this is a little bit of a goalpost move. I get your argument, but I feel like it's a non sequitur to what we're really talking about, because what I'm saying is there are holes at these positions, and even at 99, if you think Colt McKivitz is in the building, I would rather use that 99th pick for offensive line depth, even a guy who may take a year or two that you think has potential, over a quarterback that you know is not going to play. To me, you cannot waste a top 100 pick on a quarterback you know is not going to see the field. Because then what you're doing is you're counting on historic NFL quarterback injury history to strike the same team 2 years in a row. And that's just not likely.
And again, I'm just arguing this for the sake of arguing. Or you insert this DTR, right? In order, who are your most athletic quarterbacks on this roster? All of a sudden, Brock Purdy is 4th on this roster, which could be more exciting to Kyle Shanahan than we think it is. I don't know. I don't know what Kyle is looking to do, but let me be very clear here. Brock Purdy would be the least physically talented guy in that quarterback room.
And yet probably the best pure quarterback in that draft room.
Right. That's what I was going to
Again,
say.
if you're looking for your quarterback to be your most athletic player, or you're looking for athleticism at the quarterback position over the ability to be a quarterback, then what are you doing? You should not be picked at 99. I mean, come on. First of all, it's not going to happen. They're not going to waste their first pick on this guy.
And by the way, I agree with that also. Their top pick is not going to be him. But I just wanted to argue for the sake of arguing.
So I pulled this up just because this is per the Windy City Gridiron, and it has the by-round basics of players that were drafted, how many became a starter. I don't really know what I'm sure they go into their metrics or fail and succeed, but I just thought it was interesting. They say it up here in the headline, I believe. From 2011 through 2018, over 2,000 players were drafted. At a minimum, those players have had 5 seasons in the NFL. This is what the data shows, how often and they succeed and how often they fail. But I think it was something like 300 or so of the 1,100 became starters. So it's not common, but it definitely happened. So, I mean.
Well, and you're looking at it from a single factor analysis too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're throwing wide receivers in their quarterback, all these positions, right? Where, a quarterback to Mike's point when we were off air before we started talking, like Mike always says, show me a Hall of Fame quarterback without a Hall of Fame coach. You won't find one. So you could have a super talented guy, but if he doesn't go to the right scheme, it's not going to matter. Now, I could show you, a ton of Hall of Fame offensive linemen that never played for a Hall of Fame coach. It's different, right? By position group, it's going to be different. A position like safety now or running back that is not as highly coveted, you're going to find more guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round because they're being drafted later just by how teams value that position. So at 99, the 49ers, depending on the position and the hole that they're trying to fill, could potentially find a starter. And that's really why I argue against the whole DTR thing. It's ridiculous. Again, anybody who actually really thinks that rather than just trying to stir up a little conversation online is being pretty silly.
I agree with you 100%. Go ahead, Mike.
To that charge point, there's so many different factors, like Matt said, that go into players starting and all that. I just want to remind people, if the Niners had 11 picks in 2017, all 11 would have made the roster. We literally had the worst roster in the NFL. That's not the case in 2023. In fact, we have one of the best rosters. Don't expect 11 picks to make it, and that goes into what you expect of the players you draft. So I just want, there's more, there's a deeper analysis to it all, and I think people just have to keep that in mind.
100%. So how much of this, guys, I mentioned this earlier before we got into people thinking that he should be taken with the first overall pick, do you think actually comes because they were just burned last season? Matt, I know you referenced it in one of your points, like they would have to go through the same historical injuries at the quarterback position, but how much of this due diligence at the quarterback position do you think is because of what just happened last season and the way it ended?
I don't think it has anything to do with it, but I think that that's going to paint the perception that people have. Again, they brought in Brock Purdy. They talked to Brock Purdy, and seemingly they would have been okay. At the time, it was like, well, they still have Jimmy, and they are going to do what they're going to do with Jimmy. They have Nate Sudfeld, who they re-signed to a $2 million guaranteed deal, so he's probably the backup. We got to see what we got in Trey Lance. Brock Purdy was this afterthought, Mr. Irrelevant. Nobody even thought, before preseason began, they were like, Brock Purdy, he's a camp arm. He's going to get cut, blah, blah, blah. Nobody even thought about it. So now we're a year later when we lose a heartbreaking NFC Championship game on the back of Josh Johnson needing to be, the fourth quarterback that we played that season, and then him getting hurt, and then having to throw Brock Purdy back in there when he can't even grip a football. People are going to take it too far the other way, where it's like every little thing is going to be under a microscope, micromanaged, talked about endlessly, everything broken down to the nth degree, mountains out of molehills. Everybody's going to do it. And so I think that's kind of where we are right now. I don't think the 49ers or any reasonable person drafts, particularly at the quarterback position, with the plan of, well, our starter's probably going to get hurt, so it's good to have this guy.
Yeah.
I could see that at like, we need depth at the linebacker, because linebacker is a physical position, and we want to make sure that we have enough depth in case somebody goes down. Quarterback, you should not be thinking about that at all. So again, I think it's just them doing what they do every year. Hey, this is a guy that we see something in. Let's bring him in, see what we have, see if there's something there. Either we can take him on a late round flyer, or, as I said, which I don't think that DTR is going undrafted per se. I think he is like a top 12 probably quarterback prospect. I have him in like the Max Duggan range, where he's like, he played at a Power 5 school, but how much of that is going to translate to the NFL, really? You don't know. I also worry about DTR's fumbling issues. He did have I think he had 10 fumbles last year. So ball security issues. There's little things, right? Raw talent. And that's what separates, the top end guys. Obviously you have immense physical talent, but a lot of it is refinement too. And who's more refined and ready to go. He has potential, but this is just the 49ers doing their due diligence, because they always do. That's how they find these late round gems, the George Kittles, the Elijah Mitchells, the people like that can make an impact, but aren't the Talanoa Hufangas, that aren't necessarily the top tier guys, but that the 49ers can turn into something. So it's just something that they're doing to cover their bases.
What's up, Mike? You look like you got something to add. No. I liked everything Matt was saying. I have nothing to add to it. I thought it was very well thought out, well said. Okay. All right. So in other news, I hate to bring this up, but just a quick detour from the draft talk, and we'll get right back to it, I promise. Have you guys noticed Brandon Ayuk's Instagram recently? Any of you? Any of you guys on Instagram at all?
I have two Instagram pages. I have my personal one, and I have the Nothing But Niners one. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't follow a lot of the players from my personal one. I just don't. I don't know. I'm gonna sound like the old grandpa, but like, these guys come and go. I don't care enough to follow on my personal page.
I have it up here. He removed a lot.
I don't have it either. Listen, the algorithm has already got me. My wife is 5 months pregnant, and all that comes up on my thing is like baby stuff now. So I get nothing else but that.
Hey, congratulations too, by the way. I didn't
Yes,
know
sir.
that. I'm learning new
Yeah.
stuff.
Thanks.
Congrats. I hate to even talk about this. It's just I thought it was notable, especially what happened last year with Deebo Samuel. He removed a lot. He still has this first post. It's a video, and then his picture, I believe, used to be him in a 49ers uniform. Now it's just black. So take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. But I just thought it was interesting to put out there because obviously he's coming up for a contract. He was on Brad Graham's SF Niners channel earlier in this offseason and basically said, I'll go whoever wants me, whoever wants to pay me, and much less words than how he said it.
I don't know. His agent needs to sit him down and be like, listen, young fella, you're going into year 4 and this team has a 5th-year option on you. So cool your jets because Nick Bosa is going to get his contract first.
Not going anywhere anytime soon.
Any agent worth his salt would be like, dude, you're going to get yours, but don't kick up a fuss right now because it's not going to be a good look when your teammate who has been there a year longer and is due a year earlier, who is going to play on his 5th year, most likely that they picked up, is due ahead of time. So I don't know. That's just my thought on it.
I don't think either one of those guys play on their 5th-year contracts. And unfortunately, this is the new age phase 1 of negotiating your new contract, right? So it can take a whole year. That whole 1,000 yards as a 4th option in a run first team and that was the start of it. That's someone pointed out the frequency in which he actually tweets, right? You had to go back months before his previous tweet and then probably a year for the one before that. The public negotiations are starting to take place. That's kind of where we are right now. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever it is. And he did the thing that pissed me off that when Deebo did it, it pissed me off with him too. Deebo liked the Cowboys jersey swap. He liked the Giants jersey swap. I don't dislike the Giants as much as I like the Cowboys, but I still don't like them, right? Like I don't think players should be doing that kind of thing. I myself, I told you guys I'm a grandpa earlier. I'm also learning, right? Like this is part of just what negotiating looks like now in the NFL, social media presence and stir up some interest with other teams. See if you can get other fan bases saying, hey, we should get this guy. We should get this guy. That is value. How much value? How it equates to dollars? I don't know. But that is value if you can have another fan base clamoring for your services, and we saw it with Odell Beckham Jr., right? He found a way to get 4 fan bases talking about him, and he gets a $15 million guaranteed deal coming off of an ACL. Like, what? Like up to 18 million or whatever it was. Like, so there is a value in it. How the value was calculated, I don't know, and I'm just along for the ride. I hope the Niners find a way to get him here. I hope they find a way to extend him. I personally would rather him over Deebo, but that's just a personal preference.
And to my point, the 49ers really can look at both of these guys, right? And just to correct, I don't think that Nick Bosa is going to play on his 5th year without a new contract. It's just, is the new money after the 5th year? Like, I don't know how they're going to structure that. I don't think he's going to play on his 5th year. But Brandon Ayuk is the more, as I've said, the more sustainable talent for the 49ers, right? He doesn't have to do the wide back stuff. He hasn't had the string of injuries, soft tissue injuries that Deebo has. And I can tell you right now that if Deebo has a year that's pretty good, but isn't up to the 49ers standards, the 49ers can shop Deebo Samuel in the 2024 season post June 1st and save $21.9 million on the cap by trading him. So if BA wants to get paid, do the good soldier routine, come out, do another 1,000-yard season, whatever. Make sure that you're the guy that they can't get rid of rather than Deebo Samuel if you really feel that way. Because with pure skill, he has the chance to get Deebo money with far more longevity than what Deebo Samuel has had. So again, I know this is I'm with you, Mike. I'm the old grandpa too. It's not, I hated when players would hold up the team for money, whether that was Robbie Gould, whether that was Raheem Mostert, whether that was blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, listen, we're April 16th ahead of the draft, and Lamar Jackson still does not have a contract or whatever from anybody. Now, conspiracy theories aside or whatever, Debo, did his thing last year, and I know that wants to be a good example for BA to like, oh, Debo did it, so I can do it. Take a look right in front of you. Lamar Jackson is a far more valuable player than Debo Samuel, and the fact that he's unsigned, and the fact that there's pushback from these owners from whatever, and I'm not saying that it's right because I'm all for players getting their money and doing whatever. But you have to be able to read the room. You got to read the tea leaves and be like, look, there's a backlash coming. That contract that was given in Cleveland to Deshaun Watson really pissed off the owners, and they're trying to take some of that power back. They're trying to seize some of that power back from this whole, player agency movement, where the players have all the power or whatever. The owners in the NFL do not want the NFL to become the NBA. And so there's going to be pushback on that. And if I were Brandon Ayuk, I would definitely read the room and be like, look, all I got to do is do my job. I'm going to get my money. Right. And I'm going to, he's going to get paid. He's too talented not to.
If he puts up a 1,200-yard season again, Brandon Ayuk becomes a priority over Debo Samuel. Debo's role became diminished the moment they signed Christian McCaffrey. And he's not as good of a receiver as Brandon Ayuk. That doesn't mean that he doesn't break more tackles. Let me be clear with what I'm saying here, right? Just like I was able to say Brock Purdy's the least athletic quarterback in the room, but probably the best quarterback in the room, I can honestly say Brandon Ayuk is probably not one of the top 4 offensive weapons on the team. However, he is the best wide receiver on the team. So those are different things, different calibers, and he probably has a better long-term value to the 49ers than Debo Samuel does.
SD says here, if he does get traded, I could see the Niners requesting a first and a second this year. If I had to guess the teams, I'd say the ones to watch out for are Giants, Chiefs, Chargers, Ravens. They could request that till the sun comes down. I can't imagine they get a first and a second.
No.
I think
not for again, this is like,
maybe.
And no offense, SD. I think this is one of those things where people want to play GM because they got Madden. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not how this goes. You might be able to get a first for Brandon Ayuk. You might be able to get a high second, somewhere in like the low 30s or something. But if you think you're getting a 1 and a 2 for a wide receiver, like, that's
maybe
stretch.
Maybe a 2.
Let me can I argue this one too?
Yes, sir.
Before we move on? I know that Brandon Ayuk had a first round grade on him entering the draft. Right? So that's documented, and he was selected in the first round. So boom, check that off. The tweet that he posted was very telling. 4th option on a run-first team, still got 1K. I think that the GMs that had a first-round grade on him say, hey, the Niners are misusing this guy or underutilizing this guy. If we get him here, he would explode. Then you also have the 5th-year option, which has a value on its own. I'm not saying you can get a first and a second. That's a lot. But I think you can get a first plus with Brandon Ayuk. Oh, come on, man. That's not what I meant to say. You can put it back. You have to skip over so fast. It's okay. I was on the show with Tony and Eric Crocker, and I was talking about how Elijah Mitchell isn't the second best wide receiving option at the running back position. And they were like, what are you talking about? Like, who's over him? And I was saying Jordan Mason, but I meant Jermichael Hasty was better than him when they were both here. And I went on for probably a solid 12 minutes saying Jordan Mason over and over. And then Croc looks up. He was like, he was a rookie he didn't have a single reception. I was like, what? I was like, there's no way he didn't have a single reception. Like, we were yelling at the TV. Why is he all of a sudden the Niners' 3rd down back? So that's what that post was about. I like that. Thanks for the recall there. But no, all jokes aside though, when you're talking about Brandon Ayuk, there's a value at where GMs previously had him. There's a value in his production or lack of, or exceeding expectations given where he's playing and how he's utilized. And then there's also the option of his contract. All of those things have a very specific value that create draft or trade compensation for him. in the event of a trade proposal. So I do think you can get a first plus for him. Again, most GMs had a first round grade on him. The production being underutilized and the 5th round option, all of those things will create something. What it creates, again, I don't know. Just like how I talked about with the value of the public negotiations. I don't know how many dollars it creates. I don't know how much draft capital it creates, but you can get a first and something for Brandon Ayuk. I do think so.
I don't know. I get what you're saying. I think you either take the first or you take the 2 and extra. And my examples for this are the Minnesota Vikings trade Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills. They get number 22. That was their compensation. Now they turned around and turned that into Justin Jefferson, so that's a win. Now DeAndre Hopkins is the other big one. They got a 2, a 4, and a really washed and injured David Johnson out of that trade. So I think that the precedence is set. I don't think that you're going to get a 1 and 2, and I know you're not arguing that, Mike. I think you either take the 1 and maybe like a pick swap later, or you're going to take a 2 and some change. But I don't think you're going to get a 1 plus anything significant.
The significant part, I agree with. I think you can get 1 plus, but not anything significant. And again, the players that you named, look at when their contracts were due, and also look at the ages of those guys. Ayuk hasn't quite hit his prime as a wide receiver.
Where would you say he compares to AJ Brown? Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's important.
No, sorry. If he got the amount of targets AJ Brown got, Brandon Ayuk would be a 1,300 plus yard receiver with double-digit touchdowns.
I agree with you.
And so it's the system that he's in. Like that tweet that he posted is very, very important in assessing what Brandon Ayuk is and who he is in the NFL. If he got wide receiver 1 targets, he'd shock a lot of people. He's open a lot of the time.
But do you think that precludes? So here's my argument for that. Right, it's the system, not necessarily the player. I think a team would use that to try to lower the price, not to give up extra. Because if the 49ers say, well, I mean, he's so talented, like, give us this, right? He would thrive in your system. The other team's going to be like, well, he's so talented, you're not really using him. You don't really want him, so why should we pay a premium?
And the response to that is...
There is a counter argument to that.
Yeah, I was going to say the response to that is, do you have a George Kittle? Do you have a Christian McCaffrey? Do you have a Deebo Samuel? Do you have a Kyle Juszczyk? You don't have any of those guys? Oh, well, then that's why we use them the way that we use them. Like the Niners have, I agree with you, Matt, have essentially devalued him. But talking to another team like the Chiefs, who are losing their top receivers and having to rely on guys like Juju Smith, even though it worked for them this year, right? Like, but how would you like to have a real consistent player? How would you like to have someone that on a down that you need it to happen is going to run that filthy route and just break the ankles of the defender that's on him, right? Like that.
Right.
That's what the Niners are going to try to sell with the Brandon.
But this is why. So this is why I think that actually the move is the Deebo Samuel trade, because I feel like this is an even better argument for the 49ers. Hey, look, like, why do you guys want to trade Deebo Samuel? Well, do you have a Christian McCaffrey? Do you have, like, right? His whole thing is the wide back thing, whatever. Deebo Samuel had 96 touches last year. Christian McCaffrey had 211 after he came to San Francisco.
Wait. No.
Yes.
He had 211 touches as a 49er?
touches as a 49er.
And Deebo only got 96?
96.
He's gone, bro. He is out of here. But you won't get the draft capital for Deebo. Deebo might be a bigger name, but teams also know that he's got a niche.
But you're keeping the better player and getting that money off the books to give to the better player.
What did you say? 21 million?
No,
21.9 million.
Yeah.
After in 2024, post June 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a trade.
Just to bring up a couple comments, Joey, Devontae Adams went for a first and a second. Ayuk isn't Tay. I agree.
Like AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, like even DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon. We're talking cream of the crop, right? Like all a team has to do is point to Brandon Ayuk and be like, well, he's not your number one. So
AJ Brown went for number 18 and 101 overall. last year when the Eagles traded for
Right.
him.
And that's the other thing. Not all first round picks are created equally.
Do you guys want to address Cinnamon Kiss asking why should we trade him? What would the argument be for trading Brandon Ayuk? Obviously, financial aspects. Is that the only? Go ahead.
I'll go first because my answer is 2 words: we shouldn't.
Matt,
I concur with that. He's the better overall wide receiver. I think he does a better job of spacing the field than Deebo Samuel does to let Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle work underneath. And if you're looking at the 49ers roster and you expect somebody like a Danny Gray to make strides, where does that leave Deebo Samuel? You want a guy that can work the outside routes like Brandon Ayuk can work the intermediate dig routes, right? Let the guys work underneath, allow Danny Gray to hit him up over the top. He's more valuable, I think, in this system than Deebo Samuel is, like Mike said, because of the Christian McCaffrey acquisition.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie, for this comment. Appreciate you. I think that I 100% agree with both of you guys. We shouldn't trade him, right? Obviously, the financial aspect, you have Nick Bosa's contract coming up. You have Brandon Ayuk's contracts coming up. You obviously have the 5th-year option on Trey Lance, but then you got to figure out what you're going to do with Trey Lance in a couple of years. So at that point, you have to really think about it. Is it worth keeping Brandon Ayuk for 2 more years if you do use that 5th-year option, or let him go a year early, maybe recoup some value? I hope they don't. And just to address Niner Rich, he says the same people that wanted Deebo to get paid now the same ones willing to trade him. If you go back to our shows, I guarantee you'll find us saying the 49ers are going to come to a crossroads in a couple of seasons after extending Deebo because of the dilemma that Brandon Ayuk puts them in. And I think most of us agreed Brandon Ayuk is the one that they should keep long term.
Right. Well, and he's the better overall wide receiver. But here's the thing, too. When we wanted Deebo Samuel to get paid, first of all, I had a problem with how Deebo Samuel handled himself in the offseason. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I was very consistent on that. I'm consistent on it to this day. Second of all, Christian McCaffrey was not in the building, and that completely changes the dynamic and devalues him. So now, without him getting the same amount of touches and the same workload that he was getting and production, he's actually now overpaid for what we're doing with him. That doesn't mean that I don't want a player to get paid because, like I said, I'm always pro player getting money. But at the same time, I could want a player to get paid money and still rock the front of the jersey rather than the back, because if getting rid of him is going to make the team better by being able to keep somebody else that has more value, then I'm going to be for that. And this is all speculation anyway. This is just like, hey, what should we do with Brandon Ayuk? Should we trade him if he gets too loud with his contract? Blah, blah, blah. All speculation like we do quite often. Don't take it as 100% gospel. Don't run away with this on Twitter being all crazy.
Mike, anything to add?
No, I agree. Matt said he would be first for one of the people saying he didn't like the way Deebo handled himself. Then I have to be second because I was adamant, like, I don't care if he comes back at all. I was straight up like, whether he's here or not, I don't care about Deebo Samuel in the 49ers uniform anymore. The antics that I saw, I didn't like whatsoever. Now, doesn't mean that I didn't think that he would make the Niners better. And like Matt said, that was before the acquisition of Christian McCaffrey. He went from a necessity to a luxury. And as a luxury player, he's overpaid. I'm sorry, but he is. Like, he's just overpaid. Doesn't mean that he's still not as good as he was back then, but the necessity went away. And that changes how you pay somebody, how you value someone. So we are where we are. And by the way, we were responding specifically to a comment previously. None of us think that anybody, well, I won't say that anybody should be traded. None of us brought that up as a topic. We were responding to something. So
yeah, making the argument as to why he should be traded. 187 says BA isn't Deebo. He's better, in my opinion, as a receiver.
Yep. As a
Deebo,
receiver, he's better.
More versatile, but Brandon Ayuk, when it comes to running routes and being a pure receiver, is the better player.
But without the necessity for Deebo to run the football, then what is he better at? Because it's not being a wide receiver in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to the draft. Joey's taking us right back there. Now we're talking receivers. When should we draft one? We're talking potentially about trading Deebo. Then Ray and Jennings are on 1-year deals. We could become scarce at wide receiver talent in a year or so. Makes a pretty good point. When would you guys like to see the 49ers address the wide receiver position in this year's draft, if at all? Matt or Mike, who wants to go first?
So I have 9 wide receivers I would like the 49ers to target. I have guys as early as the 3rd round. I have guys late as use your last pick on him because he is going to be a complete project, but there's potential there. All right. So as far as when, it depends on what the Niners want to do. I will say this. I watched the way the Niners handled Kendrick Bourne the last 4 or 5 seasons. 1-year deal, 1-year deal, 1-year deal. That tells me they want to move on, and when they're comfortable with a replacement being in the building for him, they will do that. We saw Juwan Jennings become the new Kendrick Bourne, right? I'm seeing the trend continue. 1-year deal now. Here we are for Juwan Jennings. If they can get someone that they feel more confident in, they will not only draft that player or acquire that player, they will move on from the guy on the 1-year deal and just let him go. I don't know when, because my mindset is different than everybody else's, right? I sincerely think that every draft pick is just for depth. I don't think that we're looking to get any serious contribution from anyone that we draft. It'll be a rotational guy at best. Defensive line, if that's what I'm, if they're going to go the way that I'm talking, defensive line guys rotate more than wide receivers do. They rotate more than offensive linemen do. You know what I mean? And they even rotate more than running backs will. So I'm thinking defensive line are probably the top pick, coming in 99. Maybe a safety, right? Then this team is very good at drafting a guy and then inserting him a year later so he can pass a guy. Biggest example for that, Aaron Banks, right? Aaron Banks is a rookie, 2nd round pick. Everyone wanted to call him a bust. You couldn't beat out this guy on the right side. The truth of the matter is the Niners said, hey, if you can beat him out, cool. But if not, your job is to replace Lincoln Tomlinson when we let him go the following offseason. The team gets a guy in here, lets him learn the system, learn the position, and he's ready to succeed the player that was there before him. So what players are on 1-year deals that are likely to be starters for the 49ers? I bring you guys Tayshaun Gibson. Maybe they do want to go out there and look for a safety. Maybe that's their next player, right? I don't know how they're going to do it, but wide receivers, I have a list of them, and all of them have one thing in common. When we start going through the names and all, I'll happily see if anyone can figure it out. I'll read the stats and all that stuff of those guys, but I do think wide receivers is a position that's addressed not just once, but multiple times throughout this draft. If they keep all 11 picks, let me be clear with what I'm saying. If they keep all 11, I think that we draft more than one wide receiver.
I pulled this up. Wayne Breezy tweeted it out. 49ers held a private workout for Michigan's wide receiver, Ronnie Bell, per Aaron Wilson. I was trying to see if there were any other reports of private workouts, but this is the one I pulled up for now. Matt, when do you think the 49ers should address the position?
I mean, they're going to address it. Again, I agree with Mike. It could be somewhere in the 3rd. It could be later. There's a couple of guys that I see them interested in. Maybe somebody like a Marvin Mims Jr., maybe a Rashee Rice from SMU. Obviously, you have Ronnie Bell there. Ronnie Bell's going to be like a late round guy, though. Again, doing their due diligence, which is part of what this is. But they're going to need more wide receivers. Obviously, wide receiver is one of those positions. I feel like most teams take at least a stab at one every year, right? Just to again, with the uptick in passing in the NFL, with the uptick in empty sets, you need to have 6-7 wide receivers on your squad. So looking in the draft, making sure that you have your I's dotted, your T's crossed in terms of your scouting for these wide receivers in case you see something that will benefit the team for whatever scheme that you're running. Maybe this guy is just really good at running, little 5-yard outs or whatever, right? That's good. That's good for 3rd down. Very situational. You could run that guy out there. But the 49ers are going to take a crack at it. With all this talk, obviously, they're going to have some things. And like people pointed out, this guy's on, Juwan Jennings on a 1-year deal. Ray Jennings on a 1-year deal. What are we going to get out of Danny Gray year 2? Again, maybe a turmoil with BA or Deebo Samuel if there's going to be a move made there. There's always room. And as we've seen over the course of however long, no receiver is untouchable. But like we've talked about it, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, maybe again this year, actually. Odell Beckham's been traded a couple of times. You got, people like Devontae Adams gets traded.
Brandon Cooks get traded every other season.
Traded every season, right? And he's good. So wide receivers get traded all the time, and I feel like wide receiver is one of those positions where you really do find really good players in round 2, 3, 4, whatever. You're gonna find those guys because there's just such a sheer number of wide receivers that inevitably one of them is going to slip through the cracks. We talk about, this player has to go to the right system in the NFL. Well, there are those players that on the opposite end of it, they played in the wrong system in college. George Kittle is a perfect example. I think he had like 8 catches at Iowa, and now all of a sudden he's just like this catching machine. You never know, and that's why you have to do with the Ronnie Bell thing or whatever. You have to do your due diligence, and that's actually a really good example because Ronnie Bell plays for Michigan. Not traditionally an air it out offense. Obviously, we know Jim Harbaugh more than most. So there could be something there that the 49ers can see that, necessarily wouldn't show up on game film because he's not being used in a way that he would if he was at, say, Oklahoma or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going through some of these comments here, but all right. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about wide receiver related? If not, I'm going to move on to other positions. But Mike?
Well, yeah. Let me just let you guys know, based off of the 49ers workouts that I've seen listed, I tried finding this information on this Michigan player. I know Wayne is a Michigan fan. I don't have him as one of my list of players. So I don't know where he's projected. I don't know his stats or anything
he's like
that.
He's a day 3. He's a day 3 guy for sure.
Can you tell me his measurements? Just height and weight.
Yes, I can tell you. Ronnie Bell is 5'11 and a half, 191 pounds, ran a 4.54 40.
He is the shortest wide receiver I have heard about the 49ers working out, and there's been 4, including now draft prospects and free agents that are actually NFL players already. The Niners have been doing something, and that was going to be what my little secret was. I have here's my wide receiver list here, guys. And you see each tab is a different player that I like for the Niners, is color coordinated for what I want here. And every single one of them is 6'2" or taller. Everyone that they have brought in for a workout, other than this guy, has been 6'2" or taller. I think the Niners are looking for some size with a unique combination of speed or contested catch ability or something like that. And that's exactly what I have here. So I just want to put that out there. There are some guys that the Niners are looking at, and I don't think many of them are going to be short, speedy guys. I don't think they're looking for speed. I think they got that with Danny Gray last year, and we know that he's under contract for another 3 seasons. There's no need to look for that speed now. Now it's about getting something that you don't have, which right now is contested catchability and size. That
ain't gonna be Ronnie Bell then.
Right.
I'm a Michigan fan too, and he's not that fast, and he struggles to create separation, and he's not going to catch tough balls in a crowd. So that's just them doing due diligence,
right.
I think.
And that's why I think Wayne is a respect, from those Michigan guys. I get it. So,
and the veterans you mentioned, was it Laquan Treadwell, Chris Conley, 2 veteran receivers the 49ers brought in for workouts. A lot of people were kind of reading the tea leaves with this, but remember, they have to fill 90 roster spots. Like, it's not, I wouldn't read too much into bringing in these veteran receivers, what that means to Debo, what that means to Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
It's standard offseason protocol.
It's a little early to be projecting the 53 right now.
Yeah. Ali says, Mike, how much you charge for your color coordinated research? I got a few things I need to work on.
I will tell Ali I don't charge, but if he has questions for me, he can let me know. I have every single position stapled individually with color coordination on it. So if there's a position, I have it there. By the way, this is an entire position group, and I only have one guy. Like I have been that tough on
what position is it?
That was outside linebackers. So
okay,
this one you'll see a lot more colors here, and this is sorry, here you go. But this is my cornerbacks, right? Like I have been going through this with a fine-tooth comb, And by the way, I didn't start any research for anybody projected to go 60 or higher. I left them alone.
Okay. Can I ask you who you have on the outside linebacker? I want to see if it's the same guy as I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who it is off the top of my head, so I'll just go right to the page. And I have a guy named Jeremy Banks from Tennessee. He played both inside and outside linebacker. 6'1", 220. Banks, he's an undersized linebacker, but he was a tackling machine for the Vols, for the Volunteers. Sorry, he racked up 128 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and a pick with 4 passes broken up. This guy plays in coverage. This guy gets behind the line of scrimmage. He makes tackles at the line of scrimmage and behind it. And when you think about replacing a guy like Aziz, and you look at what the Niners look at on defense at the linebacker position, they kind of want guys that can do a little bit of everything. I think he's the star player there.
Okay. I've seen him. Obviously I watch a lot of the Power 5 schools. So yeah, he's good. He's like a mid-round guy. I wouldn't be mad at it. Yeah. He kind of does fit that mold that the 49ers like right around 6 feet, 6'1", 225 to 240, right? Yep. Decent speed. I think he ran like a 4.5 something, which is also why I think Ronnie Bell is out, because if you're a wide receiver and you can't run faster than a linebacker, you're probably in some trouble.
I will say that my research, although I wasn't like done with it, was before the combine, but after the Senior Bowl. So I don't have in my paperwork, I don't have any official 40 times on anybody. So just keep that in mind if we start breaking it down that way.
Got it. I want to address this real quick. 49ers Josh, faithful forever, bleed red and gold. That Hulk poster is fire, sir. Thank you very much. Actually found this in my apartment's trash room downstairs. I'm sure Matt and Mike remember when I found it, polished it up. Frame was a little busted. I fixed it. Now it's up there. I have another jersey my pops got me, actually, that I need to get this baby hung up and put in the frame, but I just haven't been able to. Yeah. Nice autograph.
Now wait, Bosa. Is that Bosa or Young?
That's Bosa. No, not Young. I know that's your guy. I also have a Purdy that he got me too. He's spoiled me with these autographed jerseys. All right. You guys are gonna hate me, but shouldn't I have this feeling, right? Obviously, offensive line, the 49ers need to address that. Right tackle, the 49ers need to address it. But am I crazy for thinking they also need to address their defensive line? They constantly pour resources into the interior defensive line, but I watched Javon Kinlaw get tossed around in that championship game. Take that with a grain of salt. I know the game was out of reach. It is what it is. But also, he's not even dependable on his best day. So should the 49ers address the interior defensive line in this draft?
I mean, they did with Hargrave.
Great point. Okay. But depth.
I mean, you added a superstar. If you mean, are they going to draft a guy? I'm sure they'll probably take a shot either at edge or on the interior offensive line, but I don't think it's a priority for them at this point. That offensive line needs work, and this is not the best draft to try to get a right tackle. It's not a deep right tackle draft. It's not a deep center draft. It's not a deep guard draft. Like they're gonna have to do work to try to pull a little gold out of, it's gonna be rough.
There's a right tackle that I want, and if he's there at 99, you run this pick in. I'll tell you guys, his name is Wanye Morris, literally named after the guy from Boyz II Men, the lead singer in Boyz II Men, right? And when I started my draft research, this guy was only projected to go at the 4th round tops, like late in the 4th round. Now they're saying he might be as early as the end of the 2nd round. Like that's just, and he went out, had a good, I don't remember if it was the Shrine game or the Senior Bowl, but he went out and impressed the one-on-one drills and all that stuff. And he's making a name for himself. He's killing the interviews. Wanye Morris is the guy. He's my favorite right tackle for the 49ers in this upcoming draft. When it comes to the defensive tackle position, Zach, you said you wanted a hot take. You're about to get one. But let me just say this now. Yes, they do address it, and they should address it. And just like the wide receiver position, they should address it more than once. All right? I am over the days of, hey, this guy can do both. No. Let's get a guy who plays there and see what he can do there. I am over the hybrid. He's an edge guy. He's an interior guy. Well, he's an interior guy that can play the edge. Eric Armstead. He's an exterior guy that can go inside to carry hiders. And enough with the experimentation. right? Let's let these guys hone their skills, right? The jack of all is a master of none. Like, let these guys master something, and then we can really exploit it. Not for nothing, the 49ers defensive line was the most overrated unit in the entire NFL last season. Like, I'm telling you guys, the respect that we got for our defensive line play versus what they actually did in their production was terrible. It was not on the same scale, and the defensive line was pathetic. I saw the Javon Kinlaw. He's got abs now. He's in the best shape of his life and all that shit. I don't give a fuck what his torso looks like. What's that knee do? You hear guys say to women, what that mouth do? What does that knee do? That's all I care. I don't care about this guy's arms. I don't care about his overall weight. I don't care that he's got abs or pecs. None of that shit makes a difference. Put your traps away. I don't want to see any of that. I saw that picture going around, and it took everything in me not to tweet that out. I don't give a damn about what his upper body looks like. It's always been about the knee from the moment we drafted this guy. Why are we talking about this shit? Why was that something that people felt the need to emphasize? Oh, he looks like he's in the best shape of his life. Let me see you do a couple of squats or burpees, and then I'll tell you how I feel about you. I don't care about anything else. Where's the bendability? Now, with all that being said, Zach, he did bounce back in the second half of the NFC Championship game. He played really well the second half of that game after getting tossed around and kind of pushed around in the first half, okay? So I take back everything that I just said. Javon, I love you. I'm not – hey, listen, bro, I'm not Grant Cohn. Don't come for me, because if you tell me who's –
I was about to say, you go get that Grant Cohn action, brother.
Nah, I'll whip out on camera, bro. I'm not Grant Cohn. You try that shit with a little Jewish dude, that's cool. Don't disrespect me like that. Like, we can go toe for toe, inch for inch, bro. Whatever you want to do. Don't do that shit with me. I want nothing but the best for you. I hope that you succeed here with the 49ers, but I don't care about your upper body. It's always been about the lower extremities. And until we know that that's what's good and that's what's cooking, that's sustainable, nothing else matters. You can have all the talent in the world. If you can't stay on the field, Javon Kinlaw, Jason Verrett, like, if you can't stay on the field, I said Verrett, but none of that shit matters. Not a single piece of it. I don't want to hear about anything else. Put up or shut up. It's that simple.
Dang, we need to make a Mike Rant graphic.
I know, man. That was great. That was great.
Hey, I tip my cap to you. That was well done, sir. And I agree with you 100%. After watching you get dog walked out there, don't show me no abs. You better be squatting in the gym, brother. You need to get some lower body drive. Better be doing them deadlifts. Better get, I'm with you. Like, what'd you say? I don't give a shit about your abs. What's your knee do? I agree 100%. What's your knee doing, brother? Is it creaking at you like an old door in a haunted house? Or is it strong? Like, you got to come out there and you got to prove it, because basically what the 49ers are telling all of us by spending $80 million on an interior lineman is that you're not it. And you're on your, pardon the pun, you're on your last leg with this team. So better get that shit together or you're going to be out of town for sure.
I mean, if that's not the clearest indicator of how they feel about him, I don't know what else could be. Drafting another one with their first pick. I mean, it's like, dude, we spent a first round pick on you and we just had to spend $90 million on a guy that does your job. What's up, Mike?
Quick yes or no. The NFL, not just the 49ers, have to 1 week after the last day of draft to exercise fifth-year options. Does Javon Kinlaw's fifth-year option get picked up?
Nope.
No.
It should
not
be.
even close, right? Like, it's so that tells, like, how we can definitively say, can you make an argument as to why it should be? How about that? That maybe that's the more intriguing question.
The only argument
I
could make as to why it should be is the same argument as to why he got drafted in the first place. Potential. The potential is always there. And if you just think he can even get 8 games out of the guy, then maybe it's worth it. But I don't even know what a fifth-year option would be for him. I mean, he was a first-round pick. It would be pretty hefty, I'd imagine.
It's like 15 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's
one of the guys is like 17, the other guy's 15. I don't remember, and I might be including Bosa in one of the mixes for there. So I don't, but it's more than 14 million.
I'm getting conflicting reports. USA Today says it's 11.6.
That's nowhere near as steep as I thought it was. But that's pure cap hit also. That is all cap hit. So Keep that in mind.
Yeah, because if he's on the team, so Brandon Ayuk's 5th-year option would be 14.1.
That's the 14. So Bosa must be the 17. Yeah. Bosa must be the 7.
Bosa is probably the 17. That would be based off his draft slot and his position. Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth it to take the 5th-year option on him. The argument again is simply potential, because when he is good and on it, it's great. But I mean, here, I don't want to say it because it's not that quite as bad. And I'm pretty sure I got the name right. Albert Hainsworth, right? All the potential in the world. I don't even know how much money that guy got from the Redskins, the Patriots.
I'm pretty sure he got the first $100 million contract by defensive player in the NFL.
I thought that was by the Titans, no?
Titans.
No, he was on the Titans and he signed with Washington.
From the Titans to Washington. Okay.
Yes.
I knew it was one way or the other. Yeah.
Checked out, right? It wasn't as much health, but I'm getting similar vibes to Javon Kinlaw. Not quite to that level, obviously, because that was probably the biggest case of I got my money. I don't give a shit anymore that I've ever seen in a player. But I don't know, man. It is a lot. And especially after what Mike just said, he came out this past offseason, was talk shit to Grant, talk about, oh, come see me, I'm going to do this and stuff like that. It's like, what did you do all year after that? Because that's really where you could have stuck it to him. And every single reporter that said, I don't think Javon Kinlaw was worth it. I don't think Javon Kinlaw was the right pick. And instead, you were sitting on the sideline for more often than not.
And here's the thing. The fact that Grant was so right that he didn't even feel the need to pile on, that a dude who makes his living on piling on, even he was like, nah, that fruit's hanging a little bit too low for me right there. To your point, Nick Bosa is $17.9 million for his 5th year. So 18. But yeah, listen, he's not going to continue to get healthier as it goes along. This was identified in the draft as a potential issue, and a lot of teams were aware of this. The 49ers were allegedly aware of the fact that he had problems with that knee in college, and they took a gamble, and it looks like they're going to lose out on that gamble. It's unfortunate for the kid because you want him to stay healthy, and, like Niner Rich says here, he's going to forever hate the Kinlaw pick. It's unfortunate that he was tied to such a beloved player in DeForest Buckner, and that's a direct comp that he's never going to be able to escape from this fan base. But the fact of the matter is, while he's flapping his gums, he should be flapping them squat bars. You know what I'm saying? Like, he needs to get under them weights and get that thing figured out. But he's not going to get more healthy as he goes along. That knee is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Just ask Todd Gurley. Just ask Chris Johnson of the Titans. Just ask Deuce McAllister. There comes a point where you have enough injuries, particularly lower body, and Javon Kinlaw is not a small dude. Javon Kinlaw is built like a brick shit house. So the fact of the matter is, more weight, more explosive, more wear and tear, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So I think the 49ers say all that they need to based off the fact they didn't pick up his 5th year. So with that being said, I do think that they are going to address the defensive player. And to Mike's point, I don't think they need to identify necessarily edge versus interior. If you're shooting for a guy 4th, 5th round, just get the best athlete, get the best guy that you can move around to different positions, get the most versatile guy, the one that's going to benefit the team the most, rather than slotting them in this traditional. And if any team's going to do that, it's the 49ers, right? They move guys from their traditional position all the time.
So real quick, I just want to take a second to thank everybody who's tuning in over on the Niners YouTube channel. We do this show. I know it's been schedule's been a little chaotic this offseason, but usually we do 2 shows during the week in the season and 1 show a week in the offseason. Head over to 49ers Hive, subscribe, hit like. Matt and I are always here. Mike comes on as much as he can. He does us a huge favor. We're trying to get to 3,000 subs. We just crossed 2,000 not too long ago. We appreciate all of your guys' support. We always bring 49ers content. All of our Twitter handles are on the screen as well. Go follow us there, as well as this podcast. And this is a podcast from 49ers Hive, which is our larger kind of account. So check out 49ers Hive if you guys like this content.
Absolutely, guys. If you are watching this right now on the Nothing But Niners channel, or even on the Patreon, guys, I join these guys over here at 49ers Hive as often as possible, like Zach said. So make sure you subscribe. This is not going to be a regular thing where it's going to be available on the Nothing But Niners channel, but this is for promotion. So make sure you guys subscribe. I get to be myself. I get to not bite my tongue as much and not host. I don't have to pull up the topics and stuff. I just get to react and say how I really feel about some shit because it's not on my page. I don't care what people think, right? So make sure you guys are subscribing. These guys do a lot of hard work. These guys are pillars in the 49ers community, so make sure you guys are there as well. Like, hit that subscribe button right now and share it with somebody else as well.
Appreciate that, Mike.
Yep. By the way, last thing before we move off of this, I know, Zach, we're on the drive to 3,000. We did it at 1,000. We did it at 2,000. We'll do it again at 3,000. Jersey giveaway to one of our followers at 3,000. So it'll be a 49ers jersey of your choice. So make sure you like, subscribe. We love having you here.
That's right. As we're talking, our guy Joey just sent me this tweet from Lombardi breaking down the fifth-year option for the price tags. Like Matt said, Ayuk 14.1, Kinlaw 10.4. So you got to ask yourself, would it be worth it? And I don't think so for Kinlaw.
Yeah, 10.4 is a lot to spend on practice for the team trainers.
Would you guys? It's kind of a separate question, but it plays into the tag conversation. Would you extend Kinlaw? Now, before you guys just say no, he's going to be cheap. The potential is there. We've seen the flashes, right? If Kinlaw would agree to a contract that's somewhere around $5 to $6 million a year, would you extend him? Even if it's just 3 years?
For 5 to 6, I would. For 5 to 6, I would. Or even extend them out to something like how we've been doing with, say, a Kerry Hyder or something like that, right? Like a 1 year, 6.5, something like that. Anything that's cheaper, like Amateur Draft Scout, anything cheaper than that 5th year, especially if it's for depth primarily, I'd probably do.
But now just hear me out, right? That 5th year tells you 10.4, period. He's not going to sign a deal that doesn't total more than that. So I could see the Niners potentially maybe tagging him, but using that base number as, hey, it says 10.4 for 1 year. We'll give you up to 14 for 3 because other teams might walk away from you. Up to 14 for 3. Like that's what I'm wondering if you guys would.
I don't know that we could do the franchise tag for defensive tackle is 18.9. So I don't know that they would tag him. Here's the other thing, though. If you just say no 5th year option, let him test himself out on the free agent market. Yep. And if he walks, we get a comp pick. If he doesn't walk, then he's back for a cheaper deal. So there could be some mileage there as well.
Yeah. I also think, and this is going to sound kind of cheesy, but you got to send a message, right? You got to send a message to the team that you're not going to reward. And I don't want to say behavior because it's not behavior. It's just what happened in his circumstance with an extension. If it's that team friendly where we're talking like $4 to $6 million per year, then at that point you could make the excuse that it's just a depth signing, and I would be all for that. But if we're talking like starter money or even a little bit below starter money, I can't see it. I don't think it's worth it. All right, last thing, and then we got to wrap up for the evening. I saw this report, and again, it was from Michael Silver, Florio, so take it with a grain of salt. But there's a rumor out there in the NFL sphere that Houston Texans GM Nick Caserio might possibly be on the outs after the draft to make a return to New England, and therefore 49ers assistant GM Adam Peters would be their first target to replace Caserio. Obviously, there's the connection with D'Amico Ryans, who's now the head coach of the Houston Texans. Again, takes with a grain of salt. This probably is a bunch of BS, but I just want to get you guys' thoughts on it because the connections are there. Everybody's been, connecting the dots all offseason with players, now with even personnel. What do you guys make of this report?
Fuck Mike Florio and everything he says about the 49ers. And none of it's true. I'm sorry. None of it is true. Not a single word that Mike Florio says concerning the San Francisco 49ers. When he says, I got it from a source, no, he just sat around and thought of some shit. No one contacted him and told him anything. He's trying to connect dots. He's trying to predict some shit that's going to happen. and could happen, and he's tying relationships, right? How obvious is it that D'Amico Ryans goes to Houston? So now you take someone off of the 49ers roster and put them there in the front office as well. That's all he's doing. That's all he's doing. I have nothing positive to say about anything PFT puts out, anything Mike Florio puts his name on. When he says sources, it means something I thought of when I was on the toilet reading the comic strips. Like, he has no validity at all, ever. So I'm sorry. Like, I no. And still, by the way, this still could happen, and I can still guarantee you Mike didn't hear shit about it happening. It's just something that he decided to say. I am firm on that. I am firm on that. Mike Florio, I don't know if you guys remember 2012, the 49ers were in New England to play the Patriots. It was late in the season. The Patriots were on some crazy December winning streak, like 14-0 or something like that. They don't lose in the month of December. That game was interrupted by some Obama speech. I don't know if you guys remember this season, right? And the Niners jumped out to like a 35-6 lead or something crazy. Patriots came back and tied it up, and then the Niners ended up winning like 45-30 something, whatever it was, right? That same game, right before kickoff, I don't know if you guys remember, Alden Smith was suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Florio said, oh, and by the way, like, they had some whole report that he was supposed to be doing, and he just decided to fuck with Niner fans out of nowhere. He's like, oh, by the way, I heard that Alden Smith is eligible to return early if so-and-so happens, and the team is looking forward and pleading a case to the NFL and Roger Goodell. Immediately after the game, Trent Baalke, who does not address the media after games, was like, yeah, I have no idea what Mike Florio was talking about. I haven't heard anything about that. I'll look into it, but I don't know what he's talking about. Like, from that moment on, I knew that Mike Florio was full of horse manure. You can't trust anything that guy says. And since I haven't, if I see PFT, I just skip next page, block, delete, whatever it is. So no, it's not happening.
Is it fair to say you have a similar opinion of Mike Silver since he's kind of co-signing this report?
Yep. And
Okay.
Mike Silver's a guy that he went from, if you made a top 20 of NFL insiders, right? At one point, Mike Silver was probably around 10 to 15, right? And then he got into some arguments with some guys thinking that he was bigger than who he actually was, and they shunned him. But he was trying to hold on and grasping at straws, saying, I'm still that guy, right? And people said, all right, well, let's see if you're that guy without the information. And now he is basically Tim Kawakami, 2.5, because, well, I won't say what I was going to say, but he's like an underling of Tim Kawakami now. He is just grasping at straws, and the Niners are the team that are easiest, because if you say something negative about the Niners, our fan base will blow that article up, and he knows that. And that's his last hope. Mike Silver's on his way out of the NFL as well. Give it a year and a half, and no one will talk about him anymore either.
Damn.
I'm just going to say Mike's right. Florio's full of shit. I mean, this is the same guy that said the NFL draft was un-American because the players don't get to choose where they go, and it's like the only profession in America's professional sports where you have to go to this. And I'm like, I mean, you're getting millions of dollars, and you're going into it with the understanding that the NFL draft is what the NFL draft is. It's not like you're an indentured servant. It's contract work, which, like, if I'm a nurse on a travel contract and it's like I'm going to get paid to go to Alaska, and I take that contract, then I'm going to go shiver my ass up to Alaska. Like, that's just part of it. That's comes with the territory. He's had it out with people like JJ Watt, with Aaron Rodgers. I know Bobby Wagner was mad at him over some offset language about his contract. Like, this dude, I can't even remember. There was an old Twitter account. It's not up anymore, but there was an old Twitter account called Florio is Wrong, dedicated to like all the times that fool was wrong. He's consistently on freezing cold takes. And the fact of the matter is he's insulated by NBC. And because I don't know that a lot of people know this, but Mike Florio used to be a labor attorney. So I'm sure he has all his shit buttoned up. to where he's going to be untouchable in terms of his employment. He's not going to allow himself to get fired. He's not saying anything that potentially could get him fired. But the fact of the matter is, him as an actual reporter is pretty suspect. Every time he shows up on something like Pat McAfee, I get a little disappointed because I'm just like, I get when you have Ian Rappaport on there, but like Mike Florio, it's like, come on, guys. When you have a show with Chris Sims and Chris Sims is the better football guy, that's a problem. Because Chris Sims is also, I mean, I don't know. The 49ers just have bad luck with a lot of these guys. We seem to get the worst ones. But Chris Sims tried to parlay his former relationship with Kyle Shanahan into some working knowledge of the team. And it's clear as day that I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes him that much. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that Chris Sims, will trade that friendship in a second for a headline. That's just how he comes across to me. I mean, he ran with the Mike, it's Mac Jones, and I don't have any inside information, but if I was to guess, and that may very well be the case, that anyone reading the tea leaves would be like, okay, Shanahan would probably like Mac Jones, but to say that as fact, and he's always like, oh yeah, I'm friends with Kyle Shanahan, or like blah, blah, blah. And it always seems to be the 49ers to get these shitbirds that don't know their elbow from their asshole and just come out and say stuff. And anytime Florio says something, I'm convinced that the exact opposite thing is going to happen. He could tell me the sky is blue, and I would find a way to figure out that it's actually green and that our eyes are all fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, it's to that point that Florio is just like a non-starter to me. So yeah, we're eventually going to lose Adam Peters to a GM job. Let's get that straight. He's too good a talent evaluator for us not to. What I'm hoping, again, as I've said all along, let's kick Lynch upstairs to a like executive VP role, like the old carbon policy role, and let's let Adam Peters cook as the GM. That'd be my ideal, right? John Lynch can still be the front-facing guy for San Francisco 49ers football. He's very good with the media, obviously. Him and Kyle have a strong relationship, but you get to promote Adam Peters so that he's not really going anywhere. That's what I would like to see happen. But I don't know, this Caserio thing, like immediately after the draft, he's just going to dip out. Like, that makes zero sense. Why would a team, even one as dysfunctional as the Houston Texans, allow an outgoing executive to make their draft picks? This is not the Ravens, and Nick Caserio is not Ozzie Newsome, where he's going to get that last pick. And by the way, used it on Lamar Jackson to set the franchise up that he was the GM for I mean, what was it, like 15, 20 years, right? Caserio's been there for 2 years, maybe. No, you don't let that guy draft for your future because he has no loyalty to you whatsoever. So to me, this is just another Florio report that's just,
I got to hit this for both of you guys. We'll call that Mike and Matt rant.
There we go.
In that spiel, we got a super chat from our guy Sean. Thank you very much, Sean. We appreciate it. Florida is always off, and he's a Vikings fan. Subius Florio. Him and Lynch should have a show together. Anyway, whoever picked Purdy last year should draft a quarterback this year. Be blessed.
I think I think he's saying whoever was the person that was like, hey, we should draft this Purdy guy should be the one. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that would be probably a good idea. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. This is a weird draft, right? I've never seen a draft with so many questionable top talents.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Even quarterbacks, like Bryce Young has everything you'd want in a quarterback, except he's tiny, right? CJ Stroud, seemingly a really good prospect, but we know about those Ohio State quarterbacks and the fact that he had somebody, a bunch of talent and somebody like a Marvin Harrison Jr. who's going to be like a top 5 pick next year. Okay, how good is he, right? Will Levis, all the physical tools, but dude, rough at Kentucky. How much of that was him making bad decisions versus a lack of talent? Anthony Richardson, all the physical talent in the world, extremely raw. And that's just the quarterback group. right? Not to mention that Hendon Hooker, who was injured, is going to be a highly touted prospect. You got all these other guys. And then you get to, it's a weak wide receiver draft. It's a weak tackle draft. Offensive line overall. To me, this is one of those where the 49ers need to be on top of their game. There's no first or second round picks. I don't think anybody in this draft is worth trading up for, to be honest. And, we have ample time next week to get into a real pre-draft show. But they're going to have to maximize those third and fourth round picks to get some talent that they can either use as starters or as key backups, because the top end talent in this draft, not the best. I do agree with Tim D, though. It is a strong tight end draft. Go get my boy Schoonmaker from Michigan. You'll be happy with him.
I got a lot of tight ends that I really like also. But I'm going to stick with, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, right? If we were to sit here and argue about who the Niners should take at 99, it's kind of stupid, because in the next 4 picks, we're still on the board 3 times. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of silly. If Matt said, I think we should take this guy at 99, and if I said another guy and Zach said another guy, we can get all 3 of them within the next 4 picks. So it's kind of a moot point. Wanya Morris, though, has been my favorite guy, and that's only because of the lack of right tackle. I still don't think he'll be a starter. I've seen Ali asking over and over who is my pro comp for him. There's a guy on the Carolina Panthers named Taylor Moton, Moton. He's probably my closest right tackle comp for Wanya. Very physical, good with his hands. The only thing that I would say, believe it or not, I think Wanya is a little bit better as a prospect than what Moton was. But I think, I'm not sure. I think he went in the 2nd or 3rd round, way before 99 either way. And so the Niners might be in a little bit of trouble trying to get a guy like this. And again, it depends on what the GMs think, not what I think. So if he happens to fall, the Niners have to run and turn this in, because he's going to be a guy in the NFL in the future. He's also 6'5", like Taylor is. Well, no, he's 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. Taylor's 6'5", if I'm not mistaken. Their weight is around the same, arm length and all that stuff. Good hand-eye, and his feet are tied in with his movements. Plays with excellent leverage, and is a guy looking to prove himself. Very, very, very coachable. That's exactly what you want for a guy that you're not looking to start year 1. That's exactly what you're looking for. So Wanya Morris is my favorite draft prospect for the 49ers, and I'm going to stand on that. If we happen to get him, the draft is over. I don't care what happens afterwards.
All right, guys. Great. Thank you, Mike. I have been meaning to get to Ali's question. With all of that, I think we're going to wrap up tonight. I still got to go cook dinner, get ready for the week. Thank you, Mike, again, as always, for coming on the show. We appreciate having you. Appreciate you making the time. I know it's late over there on the East Coast, so thank you very much. Everybody, our handles are below on the screen. Mike, I know we're streaming to Nothing But Niners YouTube, but go ahead and plug all your other channels as always.
Yeah, no, guys, man, if you guys are watching this now and you enjoyed the show, I'm not plugging anything of mine. 49ers Hive, Twitter, 49ers Hive, YouTube, and you'll find everything else you need to find over there. Get on over there, man. And that's all I got for you.
You're the best, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Like I said, hit subscribe over on 49ers Hive. We're trying to get to 3,000 so we can give away another 49ers jersey. We appreciate all you guys' support. We're going to be bringing these shows out at least once a week, if not more often. During the season, definitely twice a week. With all that said, Matt, you want to carry us out?
Absolutely. A lot of good conversation here tonight. A lot of good debate. Mike, thank you as always for joining us. It's wonderful having you here. I'm glad you get to cut loose, because I mean, tame Mike, no fun. Wild Mike, smoking the hookah all night, that's the one that I want. So love it. Love it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone in here, for joining us. All the people from Nothing But Niners who joined us, all of our regulars here at 49ers Hive. You make the show what it is. We love having you here. So with that being said, draft season is upon us. We're 10 days away, 11 days away. It's the 27th through the 29th. Man, it's coming up quick. 49ers are going to be picking. So thank you for picking us. Thank you as always for joining us. And until next time, as always, go Niners.